Good afternoon and welcome to this hybrid meeting of Policy and Resources. I'd remind all attendees that this meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube. I've agreed the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. At this point, I would refer members to the addendum to report 12924, Long-Term Plan for Towns, circulated yesterday. As members are aware, this has not been sent to members in line with the required 3 clear days before the meeting. However, in accordance with the provisions of Standing Order 10.2, Part 2, as chair of this meeting, I determine that the matter be considered as a matter of urgency, as the addendum contains further information and guidance which requires to be considered alongside published report number 12924, and due to the time-critical nature, it requires to be considered today. Okay. So, moving on to the agenda, do we have any apologies or substitutes?
Apologies from Councillors MacDonald and Wan, with Councillors Devine and Fotheringham substituting.
Thank you. Do we have any declarations of interest or statements of transparency?
Thank you, Convener. The statement of transparency for item number 13. I'm a board member of one of the stakeholders, Cairngorms National Park Authority.
Thank you. Any further statements? Don't see any. Thank you. Move on to item 3, which is the minutes. So first we've got the minutes of the Central Consultative Committee of 29th of February. Are those agreed? And the previous meeting on the 12th of March. Are those agreed? Thank you. Item 4 is the possible exclusion of public and press, and I'm asking you to consider, in terms of Standing Order 27.2, whether the public and press should be excluded during consideration of items 11 to 21, so as to avoid the disclosure of information which is exempt. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Okay, on to the item number 5 on the agenda, which is the Capital Monitoring General Fund Capital Programme 23-24, and I'll pass on to Mr Lorimer to introduce that report.
Thank you very much, Convener, and good afternoon, everyone. This is the final monitoring report for financial year 23-24. That financial year is obviously now finished, and we're collating the final numbers, but this report was based on actual spend to the end of February and a projection to the end of the year at that time. While some areas, some projects have slipped a little bit, actually the progress on delivery of the capital programme in 23-24 has been much better than has been the case in recent years, and that's despite all of the multiple storms that we've suffered across Angus and the disruption that's been caused by that. So as you'll see from this report, we're projecting to have spent over about 91% of the budget on both a gross and a net basis for the year, and that compares with percentages that were in the mid-70s for last financial year, so much closer to the level of budget that we'd set. I've also said, and pleased to report within this report, that the Council's interim Bellwyn scheme claim for Storm Babbitt, now that was nearly £7 million, that paid. There is work on other claims for some of the other storms we've had, which is also being done. Finally, I wanted to also specifically highlight within this report, Convener, paragraph 6.4 and the updated assessment that's referred to in there in relation to developer contributions in relation to the cost of the replacement for Moneyfeith High School. That's expected to reduce the use of general fund reserves for that project by about £2.1 million compared to what the current budget is, and the use of that resource will be something to think about as we move into the planning for the 25-26 budget. But that was all I wanted to say by way of introduction. Happy to take any questions as normal, Convener.
Thank you very much, and good news about the school. Always good when we get a positive result money-wise. Can I ask if there's any questions on the report? Don't see any questions. Any comments? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener, and thanks to Mr Lorimer and Mr O'Shea for the report. Yeah, I mean, I would just echo what the Director of Finance has said. It's really good to see the spend very high up, very well above 90%. I'd also, the figure that caught my eye was the roads and transportation at 103.8%. We are spending more than we plan to spend on roads, and that is, I think, welcomed by the public, and there's clearly been a huge amount of work repairing the damage from the storms, and that's showing up on the report. So yeah, really encouraging report, and thanks to officers for that.
Thank you. Any further comments? Don't see anything, so we move to recommendations. We're asked to review and scrutinise expenditure to date and projected outturn position. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Moving on to item 6, revenue monitoring 23-24 and renewal and repair fund position 23-24. And I'll pass back to Mr. Lorimer.
Thanks again, Convener. Yep, this is the equivalent report for revenue, again based on actual spend, actual income and spend to the end of February. The position has looked better than it was looking sort of 4 or 5 months ago, with a relatively small net overspend now, after allowing for the ring fencing of, or allowing for the carry forward of various ring fence grants. So we're projecting in this report an overspend of just over 100,000 for the year. That net position is obviously welcome. It does mask to some extent some underlying challenges, though. So there has been, for example, as mentioned in the report, 1.2 million of reserves which have been returned back to the council from the Angus IJB on a one-off basis. Now that wasn't something that we'd expected or budgeted to happen, and but for that, the overspend position would have been a good bit higher. The projected positions also helped, as you may have picked up in the report, by a much larger than expected saving on staff costs in relation to vacancies and delays in filling vacancies. That's been a significant challenge. That helps us financially, of course, but it does mean that our remaining staff are having to cope with those gaps in staffing on a larger scale than what we'd expected. There are a number of pressures that are evident in this report, reasons for overspends, etc., that have come forward. But we think we've addressed most of those as part of setting the 24-25 budget. So I'm hopeful that those underlying issues have been addressed for what is now the current financial year. Again, happy to take any questions, Convener. Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. Mr. Lorimer, with 5.7 of the report, which is on page 37, with regards to licensing, it's projecting a deficit of £17,000, a shortfall projected from income based on the profile of previous years of income. Is there sort of any other sort of more information around that? Is that simply because there are fewer licensed premises, or is that perhaps because we haven't, with the introduction of the short-term lets, there may have been a sort of anticipation as to how many of those applications that would come in, perhaps there haven't been as many, because if that's more the case, then that might lead hints to other parts of the area within tourism and things like that that may be affected because of that. Thank you.
Yeah, so you can be thanks, Councillor Gregg. It's a tricky area. So the law requires us to match our expenditure and our income on licensing to effectively to run it on the basis of achieving a break-even position. Now we can kind of know what our costs position is going to be in terms of staff and overheads and so forth, but the thing that's less easy to predict is the income. We'll know what our level of charges, the fee you pay for individual licenses, etc., will be, but we don't know how many license applications we will necessarily get, and that becomes we make an estimate of that in terms of the budget position. Now, as it stands for the latest projection, we're not expecting to hit those income targets. I would need to speak to colleagues with the detail about, so is that related to, is it taxis, is it occasional licenses, is it short-term lets? What's the reason for that? I don't have a breakdown of that by the different license types today, but I can come back to you separately on that once I've got that.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any comments? Oh. Councillor Speed.
Yep, thank you. It was in relation to Appendix C. I note that on each of the tables, For most of the departments, there are staff slippage and recruitment issues. Do we know what the impact, what impact is this having on the remaining staff, and also what actions have been taken to ensure that we have sufficient resources to complete projects and ongoing work?
Getting through you, convener. Thanks, Councillor Speed. Yes, I think it would be true to say, as you've pointed out, Councillor Speed, across the different services and directorates within Appendix C, staff slippage is a common factor. Indeed, I'm probably not best placed to comment on exactly what the impact of that has been, but I know that staff across the council are working very hard to keep all the services going. And as we've just looked at in terms of the capital programme, despite those staff shortages, despite the impact of storms, we've actually managed to achieve much of the planned spend on capital. But there will have been impacts across the organisation from not having boots on the ground and people in post. I think the way, and colleague directors would probably agree, where there's a lack of staffing, we will prioritise the work according to those areas that are most in need. The must do work. But it's a bit difficult for me to know for sure and answer, what would be the impact of that across the organisation. I flag it because it's, as I said, it helps us financially, but it does then leave an additional burden for the remaining staff to try and deliver our services. I see Mrs Faulkner's got her hand up, so she may wish to comment on that further.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you, and through you, convener. Just to say that we have done a recent survey with staff, and whilst staff are generally happy at their work and feel quite fulfilled with their work, they do indicate that there are workload issues within some of the services. So I've been doing particular work with them around inviting them to employee voice sessions to talk to us and with their line managers to find out what the issues are and how we might be able to support them better. And obviously, it does have an impact if there are vacancies within teams, but we are endeavouring to do what we can to support people as much as we can.
Thank you for that. Any or comments? No. Okay, we'll move to recommendations, and we're asked to review and scrutinise the content of the report and also the note the renewal and repair fund. Is that agreed? Thank you. Moving on, next item is the Common Good Register for Forfar, and I'll pass on to Alison Watson for this.
Thank you, convener. This report seeks approval for the Council to consult on a draft register of common good property assets for the former Royal Borough of Forfar, as per the attached appendix. It also seeks approval for extensions to 2 posts within legal services to enable completion of the detailed work in finalising the common good registers for each of the former boroughs. It also provides details of the cost of these and how that would be met from each of the common good funds. And my colleague Marie Callender, property team leader in legal, is here if there are any questions arising. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any questions? Don't see any. Any comments? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, convener. As a Forfar member, I take particular interest in this one. Quite a lot of this is quite fascinating reading, and same with all the other common good ones that come to this committee. Reading them, it's quite interesting to see some of the history around some of the bills you may not appreciate as being part of the common good. So thank you for this report, and I look forward to being completed and having a full up-to-date list of everything that we have as common good in Forfar. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Devine.
Thanks, convener. Yes, as a Forfar councillor, I too am in, and I want to express my thanks to Andrew Wise, who has been particularly involved with this. I've asked him a few questions offline, just for interest's sake, really, but it's a huge amount of work, and I really do thank him for that, and the whole team. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It is interesting to see those reports coming forward. There's certainly a lot to them. Okay, if there's no more comments or questions, I'll move to the recommendations, and there's a few recommendations there. We're asked to note and approve the content, agree that the draft list is publicly consulted upon, note that the completion of the period, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to read it all out, we'll be here all day. Note progress, we're asked to approve the funding for the extension of the full-time solicitor's post for a further period of 6 months, and approve the funding for the paralegal for the register to be completed. Is that all agreed? Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 8, which is the British Sign Language Plan 2024 to 2030. And I welcome this report, and I think we've got Doreen Phillips here to talk to it today. Sharon, oh, beg your pardon.
Introduce it, convener, thank you. This report introduces our British Sign Language Plan for 2024 to 2030. We're required under the British Sign Language Act to publish a BSL plan every 6 years. So we set up a short-term working group, which is led by Doreen Phillips, who's with you today, our Equalities Officer, where members from services across the Council provided updates on the developments over the last 6 years since our last BSL plan that we produced, and described their ambitions for the next 6 years, which are detailed in Appendix 1 of the report. In developing the plan, we participated in 2 joint events collaborating with Dundee City Council and Perth and Kinross Council, and that was to consult with our BSL users about their needs and what further developments they would like to see. We'll continue to consult with our users over the next 6 years to improve the outcomes for them, including through our Disability Forum, which has membership from DeafLinks. As you know, Mrs. Phillips is with you, and she'll be able to answer any questions that you might have. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Do we have any questions? Any comments? Oh, sorry, beg your pardon, Councillor Speed.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thanks, Sharon. I just wondered, I guess, what was being done to raise awareness within the community force that perhaps do require the use of BSL, that do use BSL. How do they kind of find out kind of ways to be involved in this plan? If they perhaps aren't linked in with the Disability Forum or DeafLinks. And my second question is, I'm aware that the Northeast Sensory Service is who the partnership contract to provide support. And I just wondered what involvement they have had within this plan. Thank you.
Yes, NES is the North East Sensory Service, is the provider that's been rewarded the contract just recently. Yeah, we had put out information via DeafLinks in Dundee, because there's a large number of the BSL users population who do use DeafLinks in Dundee. They provide the service for Angus, more of a social service for Angus BSL users. Information went out via education for the parents of BSL users, the children. So we had put that information out as broadly as we could. We do have, NES is part of what's called See Here group, the sensory group, and NES sit on that. So we have had some involvement with NES as well as broader reach through DeafLinks.
Thank you very much. Any further questions?
I'm sorry, can I come back with a follow-up, convener, if that's quite okay?
Yeah.
I just wondered if there had been any information with regards to the plan circulated for perhaps those that are maybe not online within the BSL community.
Well, our intention is to work with BSL users no matter where they're from, and the main information that we got was through the consultation events. It wasn't just people who used DEFLinks, but the information had gone out, and that was the location for Perth and Kinross, ourselves, and Dundee and NHS Tayside. And that was because the BSL users community is quite a small community in each of those areas. We didn't want consultation fatigue. But we did have 2 consultation events earlier this year. But yes, we would be looking to work with them, and we've got a date arranged to do that. All the things that have been highlighted as issues that BSL users raised with us, we have started looking at all of them. So there will still be an opportunity for people to work with us over the next 6 years. And as I say, we have got that involvement. We've got an initial date set up, and the services that have been approached where BSL users had indicated there could be more work done, they're all happy to be involved and have started that already.
Thank you very much. Do you have any comments? Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. I really think this is a super report. It's easy to read. It's put into all the areas of education and accessibility, employment, and so on. So it's a really wide-ranging report. As convener of Family Education and Justice Committee, I'm really pleased to see that we've got 7 schools, primary schools, working with this, taking it on as a 1+2 language programme. So I do hope that extends, because it's great when the children really realise and understand the difficulties of communication that people suffering deafness have. So that's great, and I look forward to participating in one of the classes that I think Doreen's going to be organising maybe after the summer holidays. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no further comments, move on to the recommendation, which is that we adopt the British Sign Language Plan for 2024 to 2030. Is that agreed? Thank you. Next item is item 9, the long-term plan for towns Arbroath, including the addendum that was mentioned at the start of the meeting, and I'll pass over to Alison Smith.
Thank you. This report sets out the current position following the announcement in March 2024 that Arbroath had been selected as one of 20 additional towns UK-wide to receive funding from the UK Government's Long-Term Plan for Towns Fund. Since then, officers have been working with UK Government officials to develop the approach required to establish a new town board and a 10-year vision and a 3-year investment plan. This fund offers an exciting and transformational opportunity for Arbroath to invest 20 million over 10 years in projects that will provide investment in the town and create new opportunities for those who work and live in and visit Arbroath. The new model, whereby decisions are decided by a town board, creates a truly community-led approach to investment and offers the chance for everyone in the area to have their say in how the money is allocated. The report does state that communications and PR would commence on the 1st of May following this committee meeting. However, as committee papers were issued last week, we anticipated there would be great interest in this report, and therefore the call for board members and a chair went live on Friday to provide people with as much information as we could and details of the information sessions which are planned, and to give notice of these as soon as possible. All of this is, of course, subject to decisions made today.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll have some questions on this item. Have we got any questions? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. On page 111 of the combined papers, for section 8 under risk management, 8.1 states that a risk of not being able to meet the deadlines given to set up the town board and prepare for an investment plan. What lessons have we learned from when we had our UK levelling up bids, where deadlines were incredibly tight and some were occasionally missed or they didn't quite get there? What lessons have we learned to make sure that we can fully capitalise on this money from the UK Government and make sure that we don't make those same mistakes?
Yeah, so this is slightly different in that we're not preparing a funding bid per se that has to be submitted. The 1st of June deadline for the Town Board has been confirmed that indication of the plan to prepare the Town Board is sufficient. UK Government have confirmed notice of the sort of timelines that we've set out, the committee reporting, etc., and the steps that we're going to take. They will be satisfied with that. In terms of the 1st of November deadline, so that seems more realistic. We'll have the board in place and be able to work through the actual investment plan from that. So it is a case of resourcing it adequately as well. We are looking to take on additional resource to help us with that and to support the Town Board. Something we didn't have in terms of the actual funding bids that we put forward. So the 1st of June we know will not be met in terms of having the Town Board, but the Government are satisfied with the proposals and have confirmed that timeline is acceptable.
Thank you very much. It's obviously a great opportunity, and but also will provide some challenges for the Council. So looking forward to seeing how it progresses. Are there any further questions? Councillor Cowdery.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I have had a lot of people in Arbroath obviously asking about this and specifically wondering how the board is made up. So I'm really happy that a lot of this is being clarified. But just as a really simple summary, am I right in thinking that the chair is appointed first? And then how do people get chosen if you've got loads and loads of interest who's on the board? Thank you.
So from the addendum presented today, you'll see that we're recommending a subgroup be established to help with the selection of chair. So that has now been confirmed that the chair should be appointed first. So we need to work through that process, and nominations, as I say, are now being sought for chair to come forward and hopefully work with the working group, if approved today, to look at the criteria for that and select the chair. Thereafter, all of the applications that come in, the nominations that come in for board, it is for the chair to work with the council to look at that, to look at the list of who's come forward, obviously to look to see if we've got any gaps. We're obviously looking for a very broad representation, so there may be gaps in etc. So there might need to be further calls or some further directed targeting of groups, businesses, etc. So that's for the chair really to lead on that alongside the council and come forward with the recommendations of the board members. The further part to that would be the selection of elected members, council elected members to be on that board, and that's what, we'll be bringing that recommendation back to committee on the 20th of June.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Devine, and then we've got Councillor Speed.
Thanks. I was just wondering, are there quite clear guidance on what you're looking for on this committee? Because I can imagine it's going to be a wide spectrum of people who are going to come forward, and I would hope that the standing committee or the working party knows very clearly what is required.
So there is information available regarding the role of that board, what they're going to be looking at, the responsibilities within that, and that's information that we want to share with any prospective nominees that come forward. So as part of the information sessions, we will be covering that, what that expectation is. The call that's out at the moment is asking for, an indication of vision for our growth, role in the community currently, and ambitions for the area, and also looking for experience, particularly around the chair of being the chair of a board, but we're looking for that further expertise. But I think it's been clear about what the role of the board is, so people are aware of what they're signing up to be and the responsibilities that sit with around the decisions on the investment plan, etc.
Thank you. Councillor Speed.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, this is just such an exciting project for Arbroath. I'm delighted for the residents, but I'm also share concerns with regards to the timescales. I wondered, my question is, what will be done to ensure that residents who are not online or aren't on Facebook are able to kind of participate in this project and be kept updated? Where can they expect to go to find out updates on this?
So as well as the public communication that's gone out, we're doing, as I say, some targeted communications to groups, given that it's not individuals who are able to be on the board. They have to be a member of an existing group. So we're using, generally most of the groups and businesses do have online an email that, can be contacted, so that can be shared. There is information available at the library, Arbroath Library. Staff are prepared. So we'll be directing people to go to the library if need be. That can be support to either apply, support to fill in the online application form. Paper copies are also available should that be required. So it's really about sort of spreading the word. We're using the information sessions, which are drop-in sessions. It's only the online Teams meeting we're asking people to put their names down for. So it really is, I think we're relying quite a lot on word of mouth as well. But really that sort of targeted approach to known groups and businesses, etc., and really spreading that word just as broadly. And we would also be looking for elected members to support in encouraging people to take part.
Yeah, that's great. So just for clarity, the Arbroath Library would be the main kind of place that people can drop into to find out just where things are at along the way with this project and receive updates?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Staff have been briefed and are ready for anybody that comes over the door.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Alison. That's really helpful. Councillor Beattie.
Thank you, Convener. I see on page 110 in paragraph 5.15 that we'll be getting some capacity funding to help get the ball rolling on this project, and exciting project. Exciting development it is indeed. However, I just wonder if we go back to page 109, the town board will not be an implementing body. So does that mean then that all the work that comes out of that will land on the shoulders of our staff?
I think there's probably two parts to that. The capacity building money that's available at the moment can be used to bring in some additional resource to support the setup of the town board and the development of the plan. So that's 50,000 that we have now. There will be a further release of money once we're into the next stages of that. I think what we're clear is the board per se will not be bringing forward their own projects. They'll be looking. They may be members of that board, their organisation bring forward a project. There may be projects led by the council, by other partners. So there would be implications in terms of delivery of projects that are included within the investment plan that may have resource implications. But certainly in terms of that support to the board, etc., whether that's from my own teams, from legal, from finance, etc., we will be looking to make sure that we use that capacity building money to cover the costs that the council has in terms of resources.
Can I just come back? I'm thinking about, whatever the town board comes up with as, what their plans are, they won't be implementing themselves. Who will be? Will it be Angus Council? And will it be our officers? Will we be recruiting further officers to help with that? Or how is that going to work?
So it would really depend what projects come forward. It may be Angus Council-led projects, looking at some of the themes within the plan. That's very likely. We're looking at regeneration. We're looking at safety and security, for example, connectivity. So some of those projects may be projects that the council wishes to see being part of that. That may allow direct funding that we already had proposed to something else, etc., to be able to do that. There may be that opportunity within a project proposal to be able to cost in additional resource to deliver that. But I think until we see the details of what each of the projects are, it's quite difficult to say exactly what that means. But yes, I suppose in short, the answer is whether it's the council or other people, somebody else will be delivering those projects, not the town board per se.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any comments? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to recommendations. So first of all, the recommendations in the main body of the report were asked to note the letter with the offer of funding, agree to Angus Council acting as the accountable body, noting the timeline, agreeing, subject to approval of recommendations above, engagement to raise awareness of the fund, and note that a further report will be presented to Angus Council. Are those recommendations agreed? Agreed. And then we've got the addendum where we're asked to agree to establish a short life working group of the P&R committee to agree the selection of the chair. Is that agreed? It's been suggested that we agree to the appointment of 5 members of the PNR committee to the Short Life Working Group, comprising 3 members of the administration and 2 members of the opposition group. Is that agreed? Thank you. And agree that the convener of PNR will be the chair of the Short Life Working Group. Agreed. And I'm just going to consult with Alison Watson. Should we ask for nominations? I'm going to ask for nominations for the committee. I would like, from the administration side, to nominate the vice convener of PNR committee, Councillor Brays, and convener of Communities Committee in his absence, Councillor MacDonald. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Beattie. Thank you. And can I ask if we've got nominations from the opposition group? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, convener. We'd like to propose Councillor Derek Wan and myself, seconded by Councillor Fotheringham. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks very much. Okay, that's...
Oh, Councillor Speed.
Councillor Speed.
Yeah, I was looking to nominate myself, thanks.
Okay, well, there was a couple of considerations, Councillor Speed. One was 5 was considered a good number, so that there wasn't an even split. The other consideration was, given that there may be requirement for elected members on the board itself, to consider whether there may be a conflict of interest in Arbroath members being involved in the nomination of the chair. Now, that's just a consideration, but it's open to debate if you'd like. Councillor Cowdy's got her hand up as well.
Sorry, I'm not meaning to be difficult, but obviously Derek Wan is an Arbroath councillor as well, so I would like to be consistent on it. Either way, but just be consistent. Thank you.
I wonder if the makeup of the committee could be discussed further in future rather than the final decisions today. Maybe the opposition group would like to consider that matter as well. Councillor Gregg.
Just going by the recommendations, especially number 2, the appointing the members, it just has to be that they're members of the PNR committee. There's no, doesn't say that they have to be from a specific ward, or preferably not from a specific ward. And if that is to be the case, then the recommendation perhaps need to be changed.
It's just a consideration. I don't think it's a hard and fast rule. Yeah. Would members like to finalise the decision today, or discuss it further with the meeting?
Thank you, convener. Yeah, we had determined whether we should preclude Arbroath members from being on this working group, but we felt that there wasn't necessarily a conflict of interest in being part of the group selecting the chair and being an Arbroath councillor, and whether they then are members of the board, and it would be up to the members to decide. So I think on this occasion, if Councillor Wan has given consideration to that and wants to be on the working group, that would be okay. But of course, if you would like further consideration, we can delegate authority to determine the members out with this meeting.
I think obviously because we're conscious of the tight timescales that's already previously been mentioned, I think we probably want to make that kind of decision today. As Councillor Wan isn't here, Councillor Fotheringham is substituting for him. I'd need to obviously speak to him and see what his thoughts on that were first, before fully committing to that suggestion.
So we'll have tentative nominations and come back with confirmation. Is the committee content with that further discussion? Okay, thank you. Okay.
Sorry, could we maybe put a date on when we have to have responses, because we do have tight timelines?
Absolutely, and we do have quite a tight time scale. Alison?
I think from our perspective, just as soon as possible, really, so that we can get the working group dates set up. So if we were able to confirm that, certainly this week, that would be good.
Perfect. So if members could get back to us this week. Okay, can we stop the live stream, please?